Right now, something bigger than us is turning. Now, you may not be able to name it, but you can feel it in your chest. It's that moment before the curtain lifts, before the crowd rises to its feet, and whether we're ready or not, the next act is about to begin. And this week, that curtain, it has a name, the European Union. And the EU has just unveiled a plan so desperate, so reckless, that it could blow a hole straight through whatever scraps of credibility Brussels has left. All right, guys, let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to the baseline. Thank you so much for joining me. So here's the headline. The EU wants to raid nearly 200 billion in frozen Russian assets, not by seizing them outright, which would be openly illegal, but by pulling off what they're calling a creative workaround. So what's the translation? A financial scam in broad daylight. And they're dressing it up as help for Ukraine. Now, stay with me, because this isn't just about Russia or the Ukraine. This is about you and your job, your wallet, your future. Because if Europe can twist financial law today to seize somebody else's sovereign wealth, well, what's to stop them from coming after, say, you or your wealth tomorrow? So imagine this, guys. If your bank suddenly decided, hey, you know what? We don't like your politics, so we're just going to skim the interest off your savings account. I would imagine you'd be furious, right? Well, that's exactly the precedent Brussels is about to set. And the whole world is basically watching. So here's how it works, right? Instead of directly stealing the frozen Russian capital, because even they know that's illegal, right? The EU wants to swap those assets for what they're calling zero coupon bonds. So I would imagine that's a fancy term, right? But it's basically an IOU. They'd issue these bonds backed by all EU member states and then funnel the money to Ukraine up front in the form of reparation loans. So Zelensky gets the cash today, and in theory, Ukraine doesn't have to repay it unless Russia one day pays reparations for the war. Now, that's like me saying, hey, don't worry, I'll pay you back once Elon Musk gives me the keys to the Tesla. Now, let's pause here, because you gotta laugh at how absurd this is. Brussels is out here writing fan fiction as fiscal policy. They're betting on a future court ruling that doesn't exist to fund a present day war that they can't afford. And they're calling it creative. So it's like stealing your neighbor's lawnmower, painting it blue, and then telling the cops, no, this is a creative workaround. But the stakes go way beyond satire, guys. If this scheme goes through, it will mark a turning point in modern finance, the weaponization of global trust. Because if we were to be real, no sovereign nation in their right mind will ever park their reserves in the EU again. Why would they? If Brussels can twist a law to take Russia's interest today, tomorrow, why wouldn't it be the Saudi assets or Chinese assets? Or even smaller countries that just happen to fall out of favor. Now, the EU is essentially declaring itself unsafe for sovereign deposits. And that is catastrophic for Europe's long-term position. Now, here's where it gets really messy, right? Because Brussels still needs all 27 EU members to sign off on this plan. And already Belgium and Euroclear, the very institution holding most of these assets, are saying, guys, this is a legal grenade. And they're warning of lawsuits, investor panic, and a massive loss of trust. And yet, behind closed doors, EU finance officials are whispering to Politico, momentum is on our side. I mean, momentum? My friends, that's not momentum. That's groupthink dressed as strategy. Now, while Europe is busy playing bond origami, guess who's making waves across the Atlantic? Guessed it, Donald J. Trump. Trump just dropped a bombshell on his Truth Social. And he says he's ready to impose major sanctions on Russia, but only if every NATO country agrees to stop buying Russian oil. And then he goes further, guys. He floats the idea of NATO slapping tariffs of 50% to 100% on China for continuing to buy that same Russian oil. Okay, let's pause again. Because say what you will about Trump, the man understands leverage, right? He's basically telling NATO, either we go all in together or stop pretending you're committed. And if you squint just a little, you'll notice something else. Trump's plan just happens to increase Europe's dependence on American energy exports, which conveniently puts a whole lot more money into United States pockets. Outrageous? Yes. Clever? Also yes. And here's the bigger picture. What we're watching isn't just about frozen assets or tariffs. This is financial warfare, the new battlefield of the 21st century. Forget the tanks, forget trenches. The real weapons now are sanctions, debt instruments, frozen reserves, and energy leverage. And the West is rewriting the rules of global conflict in real time. But here's the crazy thing, right? They're doing it with desperation, not with strategy in mind. And desperation always leaves scars. So let me ask you guys this. What happens when the rest of the world, BRICS, the so-called global majority, sees Europe twist its own laws just to keep funding a war? Well, they stop trusting. They move their reserves elsewhere. They build new systems outside of SWIFT, outside of Euroclear, outside of Brussels and Washington. And when that happens, guys, the West loses its biggest hidden weapon, the ability to control the global financial plumbing. And let's not forget Ukraine in all of this, because they might suffer the most, because this loan scheme isn't about saving Ukraine's economy. That economy is already shattered. Men are either working or sent to the front lines. Corruption has been an epidemic for years. Now, Ukraine's GDP is a shadow of what it used to be. This isn't about rebuilding. This is about keeping the war machine fueled for just a little bit longer, long enough for Brussels to say, see, we're still in this fight, but at what cost? Now, here's what I want to leave you guys with. All right. So whether it's Ursula von der Leyen pitching bonds like they're raffle tickets, or Donald Trump dangling sanctions like a reality TV twist, the message is still the same. Financial warfare has become as central as military strategy. And the West is burning through its credibility faster than it's burning through cash. But here's the good news. And it's important to end with some hope, right? Because you're seeing this clearly already puts you ahead of 90% of the people, right? You're not falling for the headlines, you're digging deeper. And it's so importantly to critically think in these times. And that awareness is power, because when the old system cracks, and they will crack, it's the people who saw it coming who'll be ready to build what comes next. So give this video a thumbs up, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. I'd be so honored if you guys do that. And share it with someone who needs to see the bigger picture. And make sure to continue watching us on the baseline for the next episode. So thank you guys again for joining me. Leave a comment in the section below. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Am I completely off? Or do you guys think I'm right on? I read all the comments and reply to all of them as well. So please leave that comment. And thank you again for watching the baseline. All right. Cheers, everybody.